Welcome to City Corner, an ongoing program where we talk with City Council and staff about what's happening in our city. Hello, I'm Hollie Logan. Joining us today is Council Member Phil Lemley.
Hello, Richland.
Hi, Phil. Thanks for joining us today. So, could you give us a little bit of background about your history? You're from Arkansas. You've traveled around the world, and what brought you to Richland here in 2002?
A long story.
Yeah.
I was born in Hope, Arkansas, raised outside of Atlanta, spent most of my life in the South, and there's a lot in between being born and raised in the South and coming here.
Sure.
But at a point, I went to work for Bechtel,
Okay.
Bechtel National, and worked all over the world for Bechtel. And my home was in Denver. My last project before coming here was New York City.
Wow.
And I would spend most of my time in New York City, and then a little bit of weekend time at home type thing. And I was desperate to get off the road, and I asked Bechtel, I said, I don't care where you send me, just please get me off the road. And I knew a little bit about the job because Bechtel had just won the VIT plant engineering project, but I didn't know anything about the city. So they said, well, what about Richland? And I said, yes. They said, well, do you want to go out there and look? And I said, no, I'm ready to go right now. Back the moving van up to the house and let's go.
Wow.
So I came out here sight unseen, flew in here from Seattle, got about halfway over here, the ground turned brown. What happened? You know.
Where are the evergreens? And
I thought Washington State was all evergreen trees and apples, you know.
Right.
But I came here with the Bechtel VIT plant project, worked out there 9 years, retired in 2010 to run for office and was elected.
Great. And the rest is history.
And the rest is history, right?
So you're in your 7th year on council,
Yes.
and your 3rd term.
Right.
So how has your role on council evolved over those 7
Oh
years?
my gosh, you know, I, like all newbies, think that a single council member can rule the world, you know. All the power that we have and control that we have, you know, in small cities like this. But that's not true, obviously, you know. Our form of government is a city manager form of government, and rightfully so, because this is a $260 million corporation with 500 employees. And you don't necessarily want the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker to be operating a $260 million business. You need a professional staff and a professional manager. Mm-hmm. And that's the type of government that we have. But you know, I and all others like me learned really quick that I, as a single council member, have the ability to do absolutely nothing on my own.
Right.
Me part
Team
of the
effort.
team, me part of the group, now we
Mm-hmm.
can make things happen, you know, policy-wise.
Sure.
But me as an individual, I mean, it's a rude awakening to some, me, myself included, you know, that we don't have all this power to do and make things happen, you know.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Well, do you approach issues differently now than when you first started as a council member?
Yes, and mainly it's that issue that I talked about,
Mm-hmm.
that the thinking that you can go out and do things with staff and with different departments and control things and make things happen, and that's not the way our government works, you know. Our city manager is the boss. Our city manager is our only employee. The council has one employee, the city manager. And we create policy that she takes and her staff and makes the good things happen, and good things are happening here.
Great. Great. So we're in the process as a city of developing our 2017 budget. It's that time of year. What are some of the council's directions to the city manager for what to prioritize in the coming year?
Well, there's numerous things. I think the thing that I'm most excited about, and hopefully the council is most excited about, is the waterfront project.
Right.
And the development of our waterfront from Columbia Point South all the way to Howard Amon Park and beyond, you know, and fill in all of that area. I believe that Columbia Point South is probably the most prime piece of property in all of southeast Washington at the least, and maybe eastern Washington. It's sitting there unused and has huge amount. We're only limited by our imagination about what we can do out there. It's open ground now, but it has to be filled in to help us grow as a city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And all of the things between Columbia Point South and Howard Amon Park, as we fill in with mixed-use development there of housing and businesses, places for entertainment, you know, all of those things, restaurants, more restaurants, nice restaurants, more hotels, all of those things will create more of a destination here. We have 3 cruise boats coming in here on a weekly basis. What I see is all 3 of those docked out on that Columbia Point South at some really nice marina, boardwalk marina out there. That would be really something special. Well, we could be the Miami of the Northwest with all these cruise ships coming in here at a place like that.
Right, and we were able to this week take a tour of one of those ships, the American Empress, and it was great to hear the feedback from their staff.
Absolutely.
About how much they loved our park and waterfront.
Right,
here.
They talked about how their favorite ports, and we were second only to Astoria, if I remember the story, and it was only because of the amenities that they have along the boardwalk wharf area at Astoria. So as we continue to fill in our area here, there's no question that we will be the top of the list of their ports to come in and out of.
Yeah, that's the sense that I got as well. Great. So another priority project that we have with the city is the Swift Corridor. Yep. And you know, Dupas Boomer is getting ready to open. We have Cadillac who just completed their parking garage. How do you see the Swift Corridor coming to the next level?
Well, it's coming to fruition now because of the vision of the council and the city manager and the staff with public-private partnerships that we've created, Cadillac being one of the more important one of those. Columbia Basin College and their school for nursing that they're building over here. Cadillac creating their nursing school just south of the corridor there. All our library. I had a friend of mine that the mayor of College Place over on the west side came over here and visited, and he was bragging about their library, and their library was 1 floor of their city hall.
Okay.
And I took him to our library, and he was absolutely flabbergasted. He said, "You've got a $17 million library? This little 1-horse town?" Yes, you know, and that is a jewel of the Swift Corridor, and it will be only the things that will come, build it and they will come type situation. Cadillac is doing that now, and all of the medical business that's going to be coming because of those things there, we can't do anything but make that better.
Right.
And with our new municipal facility being built along the Swift Corridor sometime in the future, makes it even more so important.
That's right, and then Sterling's as well kind of connects that down to the water.
And at some point we'll open up the road across into the park there when the fire station is moved to hopefully this municipal area right here.
Right, yeah. It's exciting times. Transitioning just a bit, you've been a strong supporter of the police and the fire services, including serving as a volunteer in police services. That's a VIPS officer. With all the public safety issues in our country lately, what do you tell citizens when they ask how safe our city is?
Well, our city is extremely safe without question. That doesn't mean that there's not crime here, because there is, but there's a saying among the area here that we're told anyway, don't do it in Richland because you'll get caught in Richland, because our police are so proactive and they're out there watching all the time. Does that mean that there's not crime here? Of course not, you know, there is. But as the professionalism of our police force is just amazing, you know. It's a tough job. It's a very difficult job, as everyone knows with what goes on in the media around the world. We're lucky that we haven't had those situations here. We've had situations, but the professionalism of our police force nipped it in the bud, and it didn't happen, you know.
And they've had strong support from our citizens.
Absolutely.
One campaign that you were recently talking to me about was the Blue Light campaign that the VIPS group is working on.
John Butterfield serves with me on the Seniors Association Board of Directors. John is a retired Navy captain, and he came to me with an idea 3 or 4 months ago about creating a Blue Light campaign as all of these things were happening around the world, around the country, to do a campaign, a blue light campaign, and that's how we started, to show a way that the citizens could show their support of our police force. Put a blue light on your front porch. That's evolved now to, we have the option to put a blue light, a blue ribbon on the front of your house, or a blue paint strip on the curb line out front. and it's indicative of the thin blue line concept of supporting the police department. But we're raising money now to start this campaign. We're going to do it here within the next month or so, where we'll purchase the bulbs, we'll purchase the ribbons, and we'll paint the curb on people that whatever they want to do, and they'll be able to show their support of the Richland Police Department in particular, but police forces in general, be able to show their support by displaying their light, their ribbon, or the paint. We'll probably do a program where you can do it all night, every night, of course, but we'd like to set up a program where Friday night or whatever could be blue light night, and Friday night everyone turns on their blue light on the front porch or displays their ribbon, you know.
And shows their support. That's great.
Right. So, and we're going to make this happen. We've got a lot of support from the community, and if it's successful here, and I believe it will be, hopefully that the other cities within our area, that it resonates with them, and that everyone gets on board, and it's a Tri-City campaign, not just a Richland campaign.
That's great. That's great. What
more to come on the blue light campaign?
More to come. Yeah, be watching that. What else can the council do and the public to support our police and safety services? Well,
it's you know, like I said, it's a very difficult job, and it's hard to, when they're on duty, it's hard to go up and approach, you know, because usually the interaction is something going on for the police to have to be there. But you can continue to voice your support, I think, more than anything. Say thank you whenever possible. If you see them on the street, you know, wave, whatever it takes to show that you know that they're there to protect you. And the more we do that, I think it's infectious both. I like the beat cop, the old, you know, I assume they still have beat cops probably in large cities, but I like that concept where they knew everything that was going on in that neighborhood and knew everyone. And that interaction went both ways. It might be hard to do now, especially in more rural areas, but we need to show that we know that it's a difficult job and are grateful that they're there to protect us 24/7.
And allow them to do their job and listen. Yes. Our Richland Police Department is really good about communicating with our citizens as well. You know, social media is a whole new way for us to communicate with citizens and keep them informed about things that are happening within the police
department. And they're so professional, you know, the training that it's constant training so that they are prepared for whatever comes along, you know. And anything we can do, and the Volunteers in Police Service that I belong to is a support group to the police department, and we provide a lot of services that ordinarily, if it wasn't for us, a policeman would have to do it. We take the mail over to the Justice Center, we do handicap parking, and that's really something special that the VIPs have got into. They're allowed to write tickets for people parking in handicap spots. You know, that's the only place that they can actually enforce the law somewhat, you know, and they relish the idea of doing that. But it's really important, you know, because the handicap spots are there for a reason.
That's right. That's
and the tickets, trust me, are extremely large for parking in handicap spots.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, that's good.
So
it's
a way for, it's a way for the citizens, and this is a citizens group. They have a Citizens Academy every year that shows all of the workings of the police department. They go through about 13 weeks, something like that, one night a week, and they see all the ins and outs of the police department, the court, the jails, and things like that. The only time I ever wanted to go to jail was in that one where we went and looked at the jail.
Right.
Yeah. Hopefully that's the only one I'll ever go to.
That's the only time you'll see it there. That's great. Okay, so Phil, you're a strong advocate of public participation in municipal government. The city has been actively trying to increase their community and public outreach. How is the city doing, and how do you think we can improve?
I think we do a really good job. You know, in my travels, I lived all over the world, lived all over the U.S. I never was aware of the boards and commissions that exist here, and I know now exist in other places, but for whatever the reason, I was never aware of those, and we are doing the opposite of that. We try to make everyone aware of the vacancies, and there's constant stream of vacancies in all of these boards and commissions, and we encourage people to apply for these things. And I'm part of the liaison to do the interview process on some of these boards. And the thing I try to leave with everyone is that don't give up. Don't come just one time. In my situation, my first board I served on in the city was the Housing Community Development Board. And I tried 3 times before I finally was able to get on the board. And I think that's pretty indicative of all the boards. A first-time applicant to get the job usually doesn't happen. But the main thing is to keep trying. That's the best way to participate in the government. I mean, obviously you can come to city council meetings. That's important also. And it's a shame that more people don't come. Of course, people say they watch it on TV.
Sure.
And that's a good thing also, but it would be nice to see the faces down there. Other in positive times, rather than people coming to complain about something, come down and tell us how good a job we're doing, you know.
Right.
Because it's a very difficult job to do.
Right, and as a council member, you rely heavily on those boards and their recommendations
Absolutely.
and opinions that they provide the
They're
council.
subject matter experts, typically, and that's the reason that they're there, is that so we don't have to be experts on all of those different issues. They do that, make recommendations to us, and then we either follow the recommendation or not, you know. Typically, we follow the recommendation.
Sure. Well, great. So you were also selected by the governor to serve on 2 statewide boards, the Washington State Council of Aging and the Washington State Building Code Council. How will your service on these boards benefit the Richland citizens?
Well, typically, state boards are filled by people on the west side. I mean, that's just the way it is. There's very little participation from the Eastern Washington on these boards. Part of it is because of the location. You know, it's hard to get back and forth to meetings. But, you know, representation from our area on these 2 boards, and particularly the Council on Aging, is extremely important because our population is aging. Like myself, we're all living longer.
Right.
And as a result of that, we need to be prepared before and when that happens, and a lot of people aren't prepared for that to happen. I think that's the biggest thing right now, is educating people on getting prepared before you retire or before you get older.
Financially,
Financially, physically, mentally, all of those things, you know, because it's very difficult right now. People outlive their money, and they outlive their relatives and things like that, and it becomes really hard. So the Council on Aging advises the governor and the secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services on all things age-related.
Okay.
And it's a fairly laid-back group, needless to say. The other board is the code enforcement, or the building code board. It's quite the opposite. It's extremely intense, you know, and it deals with building code issues, fire code issues, plumbing, all electrical, of those issues. And the biggest problem there is that there's so many different codes: state code, federal code, local codes, and a lot of times none of those codes really they don't overlap really well. So this board deals with problems within the code that a builder or a developer or a city comes and says, we can't live with this code as it stands, and if there's merit, they change the code. So I think my participation from the east side, and especially Tri-Cities, is extremely important on this board.
Yeah.
I also serve on an 8-county aging and long-term care board that I bring back stuff from the Aging Council to the local council here. I'm the Benton County representative on the Aging and Long-Term Care. And it's a grassroots effort of an 8-county area. I don't remember all 8 counties now, but I know Benton County is one of them.
One of them.
And we meet monthly, and it's all aging-related issues as well. But it deals, we have an aging long-term care office in Kennewick, so it drills down to the actually feet on the ground, people dealing with aging issues. And we take the things that are decided in Olympia, bring them back here and make them happen.
Wow, that's great. I'm trying to think of when you actually have time to do
Well,
Things that you enjoy. Although
think
you do enjoy these things.
I do
but yeah.
enjoy volunteering. I think volunteering is really important. It fills a void that people have for various reasons, but it also does good things for the other side, for the organizations. Every organization, especially nonprofit, needs help. The bottom lines are so narrow, so it's important. I volunteer at Cadillac Hospital every Sunday in the emergency room, and I have about 2,000 hours there now total.
Wow. I didn't know that.
I'm part of the Cadillac Auxiliary, and there are about 600 members of that auxiliary. And without those volunteers, I don't believe the hospital could operate.
Sure.
Their bottom line would obviously be considerably different because we do everything there in the hospital help in every way. So every organization needs help. It's important for people. It makes you feel good. It helps the organization. People need to find a niche, find something that they're passionate about, and ask about helping, because I guarantee you, for the most part, I volunteer at the food bank every Monday. I work at Tri-City Food Bank every Monday, collect up food. Without volunteers, they couldn't operate. So all organizations like that need help. The thing I'm most proud about is being a Rotarian. I've been a member of Richland Rotary for 10 years now, I guess, and we have 6 Rotary clubs here in the area. Of course, our big issue right now is the duck race, that we're promoting. They've been doing this duck race for 28 years.
You haven't asked me to buy any tickets yet.
I've got my tickets with me. I have good news.
There you go.
But it's a great organization. Their claim to fame, obviously, is eliminating polio, and they're that close to doing that around the world.
It's amazing.
They do great things with the money around the world and here locally. Every dime that we raise in the duck race here goes to local charities. Been doing it, like I said, for 28 years. So it's a really important part of our community. And that's another way that people can volunteer. I mean, being a member of Rotary is volunteering.
Right. Yep. That's great. So what would you say are some of Richland's greatest strengths?
I think our greatest strength is our financial strength. I belong to the Association of Washington Cities, which is a group that of every city in the state is a part of this organization, and we go off to conferences and things like that and talk among ourselves about, what's happening in your city and what's happening in my city, and they talk about usually the bad things going on in their city, and then it comes around to Richland, and I tell them what we're doing, what's happening here, and all the the revenue streams that we have here from the various places that we have them here. And at some point, they don't want to hear it anymore, because things are going very well here, financially, physically, and that's because of the city manager that we have. There's the executive staff and the council, indirectly, have made our financial situation extremely good. And I think that's so important for any city to be financially sound, because then the other things that happen, all the risk and the other things that come along day to day, don't mean as much if you're handling your money and you've got the money to work with, and I think that's our strength. Our revenue stream here within the area is huge now. Hanford brings in extremely large amount of money. We understand that the agriculture industry has surpassed Hanford in revenue now, generation, agriculture and agriculture related business. Wine industry is growing in leaps and bounds here now. The things that we're doing in North Richland with the Horn Rapids Industrial Park, all the things that are growing out there, I don't think we could be in much better shape than we are financially, and that, I think, is the strongest thing that we have going for us. Right. Any city. I think the most important thing is protecting the economic engine of any city, because if that economic engine fails, everything else fails. We haven't taken our property tax, raised our property taxes here in years. Most cities live and die by that automatic 1% they can take every year. when I tell them, you know, that we don't do that, they can't believe it, you know. And most of these little cities, like I say, can't exist without that additional money every year. And their margins are so thin. And our staff, the staff here and city manager have done such a great job of managing our money that we aren't in that situation. And I think that's the most important thing that the council and the staff has to do, is make sure that that economic engine, which is the city of Richland, stays sustainable and solvent.
And strong. That's great. Well, Phil, we really appreciate you being with us today and for all of the volunteering that you do in our community. And we really appreciate you watching us here on City Corner, and we look forward to seeing you again next time.
Come to council meeting, everyone.
Thank you.